Hi everyone, it is my absolute joy to bring back Hazel and Janet. Hazel Newton and Janet Trelaw. I did an interview with Zack, which involved Hazel and Janet a few months ago, and people absolutely loved it and very much asked for more. So here is the more. Here is another session of asking Zack some wonderful questions. Well, I hope they're good anyway. I hope the answers will certainly be good, even if the questions aren't. But just as background for you, Janet and Hazel are dear, dear, wonderful friends of mine. And we all met at one of Janet's channeling retreats, in fact, quite some years ago now. But just to give you a little bit of background about Hazel and Janet, they met through their love of past life and interlife regression, and they both became trainers and therapists. And Janet's lifelong involvement with spirit led to a career as a therapist and trainer in fields as diverse as spirit release to regression therapy, energy healing to trance channeling. She's now focusing on her channeling, has run numerous channeling workshops and retreat extravaganzas, and of course, channels Zack and all his incredible supportive guidance for those that wish to hear him at this time. Hazel had a medical background, but became much more interested in the metaphysical and personal growth as her father, a former parish minister, became a hypnotherapist and past life therapist in his mid-60s. That's quite something, actually, in those days. And then interviewed many souls on the other side who were channeled through Tony Ann Wininiger, a former prosecuting attorney, and together they wrote 15 channeled books. Remarkable, actually, in those times. So Hazel's heart desire was to work with spirit in a similar way, and she then successfully manifested partnering alongside Janet, and really they've worked together ever since, who brought through Zack for the first time in a session led by Hazel in 2010. He introduced himself as a guide for the future. So we know him as Zack, but Zack, or Zachariah, is an aspect of the Ascended Master Dwal Kul, who comes through as a very personable and loving friend, bringing the eagle's perch perspective that we're all so keen to hear. Zack calls Hazel the curious one, as she loves asking questions. He even says she often channels them, she's not so sure. So it's normally Hazel who's going to be asking the questions as the facilitator, but this time around, it's my turn. So Hazel and Janet now share many high-frequency conversations, obviously involving Zack too, offering wise guidance and perspective and encouragement on keeping a balanced, heart-led state of being. Zack's multi-dimensional meditations are very special. They really are incredible, and also available on their Patreon channel. And we'll put all the details of the Patreon channel in the description below. And where there's a huge library of free, timeless wisdom and nuggets of gold to aid us all in this bumpy ascension journey, certainly is, and a membership portal for those ready to discover more. And so all of this is in the description below, as I say. So, yeah, anything else, Hazel and Janet, you'd like to add to that before we bring Zack in?
You go, Jan.
Hazel, would you like? Oh, okay, me first. Well, just really to say what a privilege it is to be back here. It was quite stunning, the outpouring of wonderful comments from the last time you spoke to Zack. But I know you and Zack, Soulwise, go back a long way, and he is keen, I feel, for people to really take on board and not underestimate the connections with astrology, with the changes, the vast changes in our world now. So thank you, Pam. It's really
delighted. Yes, can't wait.
And I would just echo absolutely everything that Janet has said and say we're thrilled to be back. We were so amazed by the beautiful comments, how well we were received last time. Yes, normally I'm the one asking the questions, but I am so thrilled and excited to hear all of the questions and Zack's answers to those that you've prepared today. And I've just got a couple that I know you've said that I can ask at the end. So I'm going to be quiet, I hope, throughout this conversation, and then just come in at the end. So
yeah, and I'll watch the time because we'll run for about an hour. So I'll come back to you, Hazel, at the end and ask any questions that you'd like to pose to Zack. So yeah, fantastic. Ready to go when you guys are.
Well, I will pop off as everyone knows, well, if you don't know, I'm an out-of-body channel, so I just need to move myself out of the way so that Zack can talk to you. So you two can talk amongst yourselves if you like, as you know, it only takes a couple of minutes, and then Zack will be with you.
Well, we could talk amongst ourselves, or we can just maybe tune in to the energy and just take a few moments of reflection while Janet moves aside and allows, you know, this incredible loving being to come through. Here he is.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
Hello, Zack, an absolute honor and joy always. I always feel so excited to be speaking to such high wisdom. So yeah, wonderful to connect with you again. I've noticed recently, Zack, that you're talking more about astrology. And I remember a few months ago, you said something very, very interesting. You said that the soul chooses the birth chart for this lifetime very, very specifically in terms of time and geography in order to get the birth chart it needs for soul growth in this lifetime. And I wonder if you could just share that with the audience, because I found that absolutely riveting considering what I spend my days doing.
When you set something upon a track, that drag has to be very accurate to allow the momentum for it to flow all the way through. So although people are born with this innate knowing deep within their soul, not in conscious mind, of all the different things, experiences and other, the people that they are to meet, the destinies that they are going to not only discover, but choose as well. In order for this to be so much more than just the soul keeping them on the track, the planets do too. Therefore, it is terribly important for not only the person being born to be absolutely in response to all the many factors and influences throughout the entirety of their life that is coming from the cosmos. But you can imagine the complexity now when I see every single person's and collective experience that is too. Mind-blowing, is it not?
Yes.
And so this is something for us to appreciate. We have gone through periods of time where more and more people are appreciating life is not just a happy coincidence. Life is not just you are born like a canvas that is then painted upon, but there are so many different potentials and possibilities. And for all of these timelines to be there, for you to create, you are the artist of your life, of course. But in order to have the palette, in order to have the ability to do this, the entire universe, particularly your cuboid of the universe here, is in direct correspondence to you here in the physical domain as your soul. So therefore, even when you cannot see the stars and the clouds are upon, and you are doing, as they would say in modern world, doing your own thing, there are influences pushing you, directing you, igniting emotions, making changes, individual and collective. And it becomes apparent to people, particularly when they are at crossroads. Understand? Yes.
Yes,
Then they
absolutely.
look to people like you, different Pamela, for the help to make sense of it all.
Well, hopefully, yes, that's wonderful, Zack. And what you're saying is we really are co-creating in every moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. So one is to be an empowering, not disempowering, to
Yeah.
know this factor. It is not, oh, it is all written in the stars, I cannot do anything. You know, it would be great disrespect to the universe if you did nothing with it. Just be of honor, to be a privilege, to know so much has gone into your one lifetime. There's this particular lifetime now. Good, no?
Oh, wonderful, beautiful, beautiful. And another thing you said recently, Zack, in one of your deep dives, was that our bodies have changed with the light. And that's something I'm extremely interested in, the kind of energetic science of what's happening. And could you enlarge on that for us, please?
The world that you are living in now has far more toxins, far more, how to say, barriers that it needs to push through in order to live a healthy and creative life, creative in health as well as in other areas. Now, one of the factors of the light that has been emitted from what you could easily refer to as the center of your universe, the photons and other that are coming through and which have bombarded your planet beyond what the eye can perceive for such a long time now, has inhabited the body, inhabited the energy field with what you could call as quadrants of light. Now, this light, people might say, well, if I take a cell, what does it do to a cell of a body? If I said to add light, this could be interpreted as adding expansion, adding potential, adding possibility. It increases the speed that evolution happens. So in nature, when a new toxin comes into environment, at first it causes disease, sometimes it causes death, but eventually nature responds with a way to either have immunity or to actually use that toxin to its advantage, turn it into, transmute it into something beneficial. That is what nature is incredibly clever to do. And therefore, what you could say is happening with light and speeding up the time of evolution. When you think, just as a human being, the amount of toxins, whether this is in food or water, the air, so forth, that you are all coming across that you would not have, say, 500, 1,000 years ago or longer, depending where you are on the planet. The light has the ability to speed up the nature within you, the nature to create, yes, at first it creates a defense, and then it moves beyond defense to a collaboration. And this is something very important that you see in an inner and an outer world as well. Defense changes into collaboration. Collaboration is a time that then these toxins and others could be even utilized to something far, far, far more beneficial. So therefore, this is just one factor. Ultimately, the light is bringing more space within the entirety of the being to be able to function at higher and quicker frequencies. This has an impact on your senses. This has an impact on your intellect. This has impact on your emotional intelligence. And therefore, if everything is being affected in this way, if you are pootling along, living your life, same routine day in, day out, you may not notice it because it has not been asked of you yet to use this. However, just with a simple thought within yourself, just to say to yourself, I am utilizing my light now for the betterment. That betterment could be for yourself, it could be for others, it could be for the world, but it is for betterment. And when we think that, it starts to activate it within. It is as if the synapses come together, you know, the neurons crack on, and new pathways of light within start to do the communication. And communication goes beyond, of course, yourself, beyond your energy field. so that you have the ability to become far more luminous, far more potent and influential in a better way in the world. However, to go through it, it is like any change. There can be pitfalls. Things can happen along the way. And a lot of people have been feeling many different symptoms on every single level as well to go through. You have a saying in your world, break down to break through. And this is happening a lot. Some people have very good constitutions that allow themselves to just keep going with the light, and the light infuse. But others sometimes take time to digest that light, to integrate the light before it can then be shown. So even though this has come from the universe, even though the cosmetologists can talk about this, and then you will have others, people in spirituality and religion that will say it is a gift from the gods, I would simply say it is an evolution of your time here on this planet and the keyboard of the universe, because these photons exist, because they are coming to the planet, because you are being bombarded. You cannot get away from being more beings of light. So the question is, what you're going to do with it? Understand, yes?
Yeah, that's really, really beautiful, Zack, because essentially what you're saying is that the toxins are acting as catalysts for our evolution. Just as, you know, we know that we have hundreds of thousands of bacteria and viruses in our gut, and we have constantly enhanced our immune system in the body's intelligence being able to deal with those and supersede them, as it were. And that's what you were saying with the light. There's an increase in frequency, which is allowing us to make those evolutionary jumps.
Absolutely. And to move past what many people have been feeling quite a few years now, the energy of defense to energy of collaboration. Yeah. Nature understands this. When human gets this too, it will allow the process of the light to happen far quicker, rather than to be stuck in defending mode, to move to collaboration mode. It is just hard to get into the noodle of the everyday human being these days. That's something that can affect you very poorly and make you very poorly, has the ability also that you can enhance and transform it into something better. Not just defend against it, but come together with it and actually have it as something vital to bring vitality to life. Would that not be good? No.
Wow. So essentially, Zack, what you're saying is that our mindset here is incredibly important, because if we're in defense, we're more in victim mode. If we move into collaboration, we're more in co-creation and empowerment mode.
Absolutely. So this is how the consciousness makes sense of it. Now, if we could consciously total every cell of our body, this would be easy peasy, because we'd say, stop defending, go into collaboration. But that actually takes time. So essentially, the reason why I'm talking about it today is simply to ask people to open their hearts to the possibility to listen to, for example, their body's own intuition that may be telling them something that a few years ago, something that they didn't feel sat well with them or was good for them. And now they're getting intuition. Actually, I feel this is good. But logically, consciously is saying, but that was the experience before. Now, I do not mean everybody to go out and pick up a poison. That would be the last thing. That would be a terrible thing to do. But it is more about situations that come into your life. Look at the things and say, have I got the light within me now? Or you may not use that terminology. You could just say, have I changed enough now that I can make something wonderful out of this event, this experience, this happening, where before I was simply trying to defend and get over it. Understand, yes?
Yeah, very clear. That's brilliant, actually, Zack. Absolutely. And I think that will help a lot of people. And you've also talked in the past, Zack, about the light particularly activating the heart. And can you talk about that a little bit?
So the light and the heart go hand in hand together. The heart on its own is the most powerful vehicle in your life for change. People talk about changing mindset, changing the noodle. And this is, of course, important with perspectives, with views, with deeper understandings, awarenesses, all of these things, with intellect, of course. But really the change of the heart. People think, oh, my heart flows and does all of these things. But people often set their heart. They have a wound. They have a hurt. They have a belief. They have an opinion. And their heart gets set. There is nothing more sad to the universe than to see a person who, particularly early in life, has set their heart. You even have the terminology heart of stone. And because people have choice, every single person has a choice, and not just a choice of what to do tomorrow or a choice of what career to do. You have a choice in every breath. The moments of your life are not just indicated by a clock and the time. It is indicated by the beatings of your heart and your breath. Every single one of them is an opportunity for there to be more light, literally, in your life, for there to be more love, to be more compassion, to be more. If we set our hearts, and when we think something intellectually, it is very easy for us to convert and tumble it down into repression. I was going to say suppression, but it's really a repression of the heart. So therefore, what the light is doing, it is igniting, it is taking forward, just as many people have done, and we have heard it through so many distinguished peoples, and not just distinguished peoples, from just people that we love and who we see care. People who care really show this and epitomize this ever so well. That if we can go and we allow our heart to take charge, we take off all the stops, all the blocks where we have leadened our heart, stopped our heart, taken the light out of our heart. If we allow ourselves to merge with the practice that we give so often to our mind of being able to evaluate, we can do so with the heart. And the light is really helping this. So all of those, and you know, every person has a reason. It is not about having, not having reason. Every person in this lifetime, every person listening now has reason that they could justify closing, shutting down, darkening their heart or parts of their heart, closing their heart off. And I'm not asking you or telling you or suggesting to you, oh, just lift them all away and it'll be fine. What I will say though is life and what you manifest in your life, what you attract in your life, and the choices that you make become so much lighter, brighter, and far more joyful, this higher frequency of joy than simply getting by in survival, if we allow the light to help us remove those blocks. Understand, yes?
Yeah, really, really fascinating. And sticking with the heart, Zack, about a year or so ago, you said that the heart connects with the cosmos. And that's something that interests me a great deal. So could you expand on that for us? How does that work?
So first of all, regarding your very first question, when we have a birth chart, you would call it, yes, your natal chart?
Yes.
This is right. I need to get correct terminology from the master.
Yes, that's absolutely spot on, Zack.
So if you have your natal chart and you take a picture, you look at that natal chart, that does not reside here. The sacred geometry of it is here. The sacred geometry of your natal chart is literally embedded into your energy field at the very center of you. So the planets, the cosmos, everything that moves, and is that not everything, is constantly communicating directly with your heart. Now, this is a different communication than humans have. This is not a conversation, a dialogue back with and forwards like we are having. You know, the universe does not debate with your heart. It simply communicates its influence. So if you think, why would the energy of a person be designed in such a way that it is in the heart? Why is the heart the center? Why is it the center chakra as well of the energy system? Why is it that everything of matter, everything of substance, everything of importance is regulated and moved and felt through the heart? And this is because the heart is what connects you with the very fabric of the universe. I have said so many times, and I say it again, because eventually people will really feel it if they do not already. You have got an individualism. You have got an individual personality, an individual soul. The universe celebrates your individuality. Nothing in the universe wants you to not exist as an individual. However, the greatest part of your life as a soul as well, is being part of the whole, or the rich tapestry that is not only this universe, but all the many dimensions as well. And so therefore, for you to feel, to sense, to be connected to everything, it makes far more sense for it to be through the heart than through the head. Can you imagine in your everyday life where the head needs to be the master of your life, in the sense of, getting to appointments, doing your things, living in a linear aspect that the physical life asks of you? That is all determined by the brain, the consciousness, this neural part up here, but it has a connection through the third eye, through the crown, and many other chakras to also be connected with the intuition and the wisdom. However, it is the heart that isn't just connected, it is the universe. In quantum theory, which we will not get into here, and has very many different labels and attributes, it is very viable to say that the universe fits within your heart as well. Understand, yes?
Gosh, Zack, so essentially what you're saying is that the communication between the heart and the cosmos is via frequency and geometry.
Absolutely.
Wow. I'm blowing fuses here, as you can well imagine.
It is always lovely when the time becomes right that I am allowed to divulge more. You see,
yes.
Things that could not be said last time, but were important then. Things that can be said now, important now. Very important for people's not to understand. You do not have to go to a geometry class to understand sacred geometry and other. Just simply to appreciate, to put hand on heart and say, wow, I am an incarnation of a part of the universe. That is quite mind-blowing, I think. I never really thought too much in that terminology when I was alive, because it was a different time. And when I was living in so many different incarnations, we didn't have these types of terminology. And we thought very much in vast esoteric aspects. You are living in a time now where it is prominent and useful to your awareness to know the esoteric nature of the universe, the mystery of the universe lays within you. You do not have to go out there to find it. You need to go in here, because it is in every single one. And if you are thinking, not that one, they are not very clever, not that one, they are not very nice, then you have missed what I have said. Every single person and every single animal as well. They may not have natal charts in the same way. Goodness, could you imagine if every pig and fish and snake had to be in the right place at the right time and keeping on track? But they do have connections with the whole of Gaia, with the earth. They do have connections with humanity. They do have their own collective consciousness. They do have their own souls. And therefore the complexity of what we see out there when we look through a telescope to the stars, to all that you do and are master of and appreciate. And this is why it does not just affect this person on this day and this person on this day. It affects everybody constantly, 24/7, and every being, all of nature. That is why what you can see in the stars can determine what you see in weather patterns, can determine what you see in natural resources. It goes beyond humanity. It goes to the whole global experience of Earth. Understand, yes?
Yes, so what you're saying, Zack, is essentially we are each a fractal of the universe, of the cosmos. We're each a fractal of the cosmos.
Absolutely.
Wow, that is so, that's so beautiful. Okay, so moving forwards to think about what's happening in our cosmos right now, we have a dramatic increase over the last few years, particularly since 2018, in coronal mass ejections, M-class storms, etc., as the magnetic fields of the sun and the earth have dropped substantially. So is it that, well, firstly, I'd like to ask the part that they are playing in our evolution. And secondly, is it true to say that both the coronal mass ejections and the photonic light are bringing new information? It isn't simply a rise in frequency, they're bringing us new information to develop into, let's call it, the new human.
The photonic light especially is bringing information. It is encoded. All light is encoded. Light is the original communicator of source energy. So light equals communication equals bringer of information. Okay. Now, that which you have seen with the corona, that which you have seen of these solar ejections and the magnetism, it is really the magnetism, even more so than the radiation, that I would like to speak of. So the photons that we have said, and we have discussed these. Now, when it comes to a star, such as yours of the sun, in order for life to be present, this is our primary school stuff, but of course, there needs to be a star bright enough to give the warmth, the light, and everything else it brings for life to exist. Now, sometimes there is a little bit of a play off. The sun, as you know, has got a nuclear center. The sun needs to be constantly burning, constantly. Eventually it will burn itself out, but that is a long, long time away. But in order for this to happen, at the so that is at the epicenter, but actually out on the far, far reaches, there are times to do with, again, to do with the movements of the cosmos, that the Earth and other planets have this experience in other galaxies around their sun, where there is a magnitude that comes off from their star that has such impact, because it has magnetic force, Earth has magnetic force, people have magnetic force force all around, field of the body, but also particularly the electrical currents within them, and the magnetic force, particularly of the heart at this time, as well as of the mind. Therefore, when we go through a situation where the star, in this case the sun, is emitting vast ejections, rather than it being encoded like the photons of information and light, what it actually presents is a challenge to those who are receiving it. This emission of the magnetic force and the radiation. And this is why I would like to just turn your attention back to the answer when we were talking about the body moving from defense when something is coming in to moving to collaboration. At the moment when we are receiving this, it is natural that the communication in the cells of the body go into defense mechanism, not so much like a virus or a bacteria getting in, but it says, whoa, this is a lot of energy coming at me. What do I do with it? Some people have a natural ability where it will bounce off, where they are not particularly affected. People using devices and all sorts of other things may have it even amplified. or even less than so. However, what magnitude of the this magnified force as well, the magnetic force coming, what it does mostly that people would recognize is affect their emotions. Okay, so if they are quick to anger, they will be even quicker to anger. If they are one to feel sorrow and loneliness, they will feel more sorrow and loneliness. If they are one of creative force, maybe they are artist or inventor, they may actually find that they go into a flow of a huge creative process. Because this magnetism, that we could call it, does not have a positive, negative idea. This is not communicated like the light communication is. This is not a, you could say, a consciousness that is coming across. This is simply affecting, attacking. You can see it how it is connecting with the around the world. But you could look at certain areas where this is in a bombardment and people become very quick to react, very quick to respond. And other places which are not receiving it so much, which you could almost say were in a malaise. You understand, yes? So yeah. It is really the fact that the photons bring the conscious higher level communication and encoding, and the corona eruptions is more about the effect and the amplification of what you already have within your system, but that is on an emotional level more than anything else. Although it can have very fatiguing physical attributes that come with it as well. Understand? Yes, that was a very long-winded.
No, I'm hanging on every word here, Zack. So that means, therefore, if we are to use the coronal mass ejections to enhance our ascension, again, we have to be in the mindset of collaboration, not defense, i.e. empowerment rather than victim.
And to be kind to yourself. Now to think, where did that come from? You know, I talk about being kind the whole time, but there is actually very good reason for it from a physiological point of view. Because if you do find this is something amplifying within you that you are normally able to keep in check, and you berate yourself, you are just going to do it more. However, if you recognize it and you say, this is really like a test from the sun, this, I'm feeling this. Yes, I can realize that these solar flares are just come and I'm feeling this way. But rather than blaming it or saying the solar flares made me feel this way, it is saying, so I still have some vestige within myself of that anger that I thought I was shut off. I still have that vestige of fear or of loneliness that I thought I did not feel anymore. So it is about being kind to yourself, not trying to drive it out, but choosing. This is the thing with the magnetism as well. You know, it makes you feel a certain way, but then you have a choice how to respond. It cannot be blamed. Well, there was a solar flare, and so I was very angry with someone and I had an argument with them and I shouted them down. It can be, I wanted to have that argument. I wanted to shut them down, but I chose a different path because you are keepers of who you are and how you act and how you respond. But it is true that we move from defending into collaboration, because on the collaboration front, you could see it as a great teacher of showing you what you are not seeing inside of yourself. Understand, yes?
Yes, and I suppose that's one of the big things, that the magnetism is revealing to us what we still need to shed or change in some way in our behavior and our frequency.
And it is always worth remembering that when we get that insight, we do not have to do it immediately. This is where so many people fall down. They feel overwhelmed because they suddenly discover that there's something that they were not expecting or is still there, and they feel overwhelmed because they think, well, I'm doing so many things. But there's no harm in recognizing, in understanding, appreciating, and saying to yourself, wow, I've still got some more work to do. When the time is right, I should do it. For now, I choose a path that is right for me, because choice is always in the moment, whatever has happened to you. Choice is in the moment to follow your divine way. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful. So wow. So Zack, you've also said that the amount of light we have on our earth is higher than we've ever had it before. So is it the case that our, let's call it our ascension, our spiritual upgrade, that this is also greater than humanity has ever experienced before? Is it true to say that?
You have more tools now than any generation ever before you have been given. And I say given because given from the universe. These are great boons, great gifts from the universe. Yes, you could say, well, it is just physics. And that is true. I am not saying that it is being bestowed because humanity is being very good and it's getting a gift. That is for the children to think of in that way, no harm in thinking that way. But as adults, to have maturity within us, to understand that the universe is always in alignment to where we are. The universe is a mirror of what is going on inside us. So if we say, this is happening, this is vast, this is huge, what is happening that I am seeing out in the world, you have the ability to say, wow, what's going on inside of me is the same. If you talk to people who deal with insects, who deal with flora and fauna, yes, the light is on the environmental struggle, and that is where the spotlight is, which is completely understandable and true, so that the masses can understand what they are aware of in detail. What often doesn't get discussed is the speed of evolution at this time, the speed that the smallest particles in nature have the ability to adapt and change. So whenever I refer to nature, it is to say you are part of nature as well. Intellect for humans get in the way, arguments get in the way. Yes, but this, yes, but that. The smallest, the amoebas, the smallest of nature do not argue, they just get on with the job. And the job at the moment is to move past defense into collaboration and move on and evolve. Move past defense into collaboration, move on and evolve. Find new ways, change, let go of what has been to create something more beautiful in the now. Understand, yes?
Yes, yes. So with regard to speed, Zack, I mean, we've always understood that that 2032 is the beginning of the so-called golden age. But with these quantum leaps of evolution that we're going through, dare I ask whether we're ahead of schedule on that, or where are we on that timeline?
Now, this is interesting because, as we say, it is always how people's hearts respond, because through the heart response is how the action happens. In some areas, vastly ahead of time of predictions, because this is, I'm big cheerleader, big fan of humanity. And humans have a great capacity for love and for accepting change once change happens. Okay. However, there are other parts that many people are just finding so hard to let go of due to the enormity of it. We could look at, for example, the climate crisis. Let us call it that. Not the cause, but the effects at the moment. The situation of keeping a planet as it was before nearly 8 billion people lived upon it, it cannot look the same as it did before. However, many ingenious peoples are looking at ways for it to develop, again in collaboration with nature, for the betterment for all. However, we are not on track as yet with what the predictions were going into that, because people keep taking their eye off the ball of the environment to something innate within them. Now, this is completely understandable, because whilst all of this is happening, the universe, in a way, is asking you to have a deep transformational experience within you. Every single person moving from mind to heart in its simplest term, every single person on the planet. So you could say it is as if you have a worker who you've given too many projects from. Some of them that they excel at, they may be do better and they put their time and effort into them, while others they find difficult, uncomfortable, or even distasteful, that they are taking their eye off the ball. So in answer to your question, it is quite complex, this answer. We are on track, you could say, for there to be a time where things are so much more harmonious, are things so much more luminous, are so much more comfortable. But it is a rocky road, naturally, to get to there, where the past is changed to such a great degree that the new that comes in is accepted by all, the new way of being, the help in the nature, and all of these different things. Does this make sense to you, my dear?
It does, Zack. So are you really saying then that each individual's experience is going to be very specific and possibly very different from other people around them?
Absolutely. The viewfinder, let's put it that way, the viewfinder that you look at the world is always going to be like a filter, filtered through your own transformational process. If you are still very much in your mind and you are not allowing your heart to tell you things, to give you innate wisdom, to connect you with the cosmos and with everybody else, and you are getting information, so it is only piece by piece, and you are struggling with your own world, and our hearts go out to, our compassion goes out to you if you are feeling like that. The view that you look at on all these different aspects of the world is going to be clouded by that. The more, therefore, that an individual is allowing themselves to move into their heart, not to disregard the head, not to disregard the intellect, but to put the same parameters it has learned from using their mind. What is word? I find the word, bear with me. Discernment, discernment, discipline, all of these things. And we actually bring those into the heart so that the heart works in a very elevated way. The filter is removed. We see things exactly as they are. We see where we need to add our energy. We see what needs extra help. We see where our collaboration, our love, our compassion, and all of these things can make a difference. So yes, everybody's perception is going to be different of exactly the same things. Understand, yes?
Yeah, because we are all at different speeds on different journeys, and there's no judgment in that. It's simply where we are on our journey.
Absolutely. If you come away from this conversation with nothing else, take with it, life, both inside and outside, becomes so much more comfortable and easier to see the most positive and better pathways if we allow ourselves to let heart be king or queen of your life. Understand, yes?
Yes, absolutely. And just one final question, then I'll turn it over to Hazel, who may want to ask you some as well, Zack. So just going back to the photonic light, that is inevitably, by the laws of physics, raising our frequency day by day.
Absolutely. Again, if you think Zachariah has told mumbo jumbo, I do not understand a single word he says. Be safe in the knowledge you can do nothing, literally nothing, and the light will change you. It will just simply take longer if you resist it, because this light is a cosmic evolutionary force. Your evolutionary forces have come through nature, of course, and have come through this particular segment, you can say, of your keyboard of the universe, up until this point. You could envisage, if it is hard to think of light, it is so ethereal, as this evolutionary force. Think that this is where the galaxies now come in, the galactic part of the universe. If I say you are part of, as you said, Pamela, a fractal of the universe, well, there is so much more than just what is on this planet and this nature. You are part of everything, not just, what you can see with the telescope that goes out as far as Pluto or Mars. We are talking about the entirety of the universe, mind-boggling. Therefore, the light that is coming is in elevation or evolution, as I prefer to call it, of the next part of your evolution. It is light literally gifting you a mode and a method to move out of these frequencies that do contain toxins and other such things into a place where everything that exists is in harmony and collaboration with each other. Now, this may sound like a utopia, but it is actually just a shift in perception. It is a shift in perception. If we allow ourselves the magnitude of mind, the magnitude of heart to start to open up to the possibility that there could be so much light evolving this entire planet into one where everything that we invent and we create is for betterment. Yes, still fuel, still agriculture, still things to eat, still things, to have the joyful life that you want to have. But it is done in such a way that it is powerfully enhancing each other, which is what harmony is all about. Understand, yes?
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm just so grateful for this immense opportunity. And before I sort of just hog the whole hour, Hazel, is there anything you'd like to come in and ask Zack as well? I mean, that's been so rich.
Thank you, Pam. Your questions are just sublime, and I love how you interact together. I think she brings out something very special in you, Zack. Zack, I'm very aware that there are a lot of people very concerned at the moment. There's a lot of changes taking place on the planet. There's a lot of information that could be quite fearful for many people. I wonder if you could give your high perspective on what's taking place, because I know in the past you've spoken to us about the fact that we are in a time where there is a predominance of destruction energy, and that is exactly what happens on a planet in ascension mode. So I'd just love it if you could explain that to all the viewers here.
You are human beings living in an incarnated world, and therefore linear time is predominant for you. We understand this. The time that you are in now is filled with uncertainty. Uncertainty also brings about opportunity. Opportunity for things to be done in different ways than they were before. You can have lots and lots of think tanks, lots and lots of projects, lots and lots of things that happen that say, if this happens, this. But until something happens, you never truly know a human's reaction, what choice they are to make. Now, whatever is happening that you see, every single moment, everybody has a choice to put into the field their desire for a future. Now, this is not about direct narrative that says a future that looks like this, and a whole essay. It is how you desire for yourself to live and for others to live. Therefore, when we are experiencing in a linear world something that is decimating, the only positive that can come from a decimation is from what comes out of it. It is like the bird of peace with the leaf to Noah. If you are looking back on these types of things, we can be all at sea and feel there is nowhere else in our hearts to go but to tumble down into fear. And some of these fears, of course, are going to be based on solid ground. However, this is the time to take hold of ourselves. This is the time to say, I'm part of this universe and therefore I affect. Whether I do this in action, in my voice, but it must come from a place of heart that has compassion. And it is a compassion that needs to extend for the whole of the globe, the whole of humanity, the whole of nature. When we give compassion to one and not to another, then it is not compassion anymore. It is like love. Love can be said in sweet words, but compassion is something that you muster, that you create from deep within you. So if you are feeling fear, if you are feeling anger, if you are feeling anything at all, it is because you are human and it is natural for you to feel this. The sense that you can do of bringing compassion, and your idea, your dream for a future where there does not need for there to be any decimation. And not only need, but there does not even have the energy for this to be a a potential, a possibility. It is what is done in the moment. This is why when you look and you may gravitate towards certain people and you say, I see in them something that is so magical, so special. Whether it is somebody's courage, whether it is somebody's joy, whether it is somebody's openness to express their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions. Allow this to be the new way where we see it ourselves in each other's eyes, where we see ourselves as we are on this planet as something that is part of a whole. Because whatever happens, whatever you see and you sense, there is a choice within of how you respond. If you do feel fearful, it is not about just push it away and say everything is okay, because we are mature beings. We cannot always do that, but we can say, I have a choice here to regulate myself inside and to what I will populate into the collective field. How I use my voice to this, how I decide to come together. And there is much that we are seeing in this generation that we haven't seen before, of collaboration, of care, of heart. And we can be heartened of that this is being built upon this particular time. But I would go to say that there are many peoples who think that the route to awakenment, a route to betterment is through suffering. And I've said for many years, that is all paradigm. We want suffering to end. Everybody in our hearts wants suffering to end. Suffering within us, suffering of other people. Suffering is not necessary for an evolution to happen. And therefore, we must, in our hearts, send compassion to all and every ounce of this planet, of the nature, of the animals, of the people, and everything that feels the energy of suffering. For that is not required throughout the decimation. decimation of always a being can happen in very, very different ways. But anything that we do experience, remember, we are mirroring out as well what we feel within. So put into the field what you desire. And ideally, this is your life, it is your choice. May I suggest you flavor everything with compassion. Understand, yes?
I do, and I have noticed the most incredible amounts of compassion amongst people, and amazing gatherings of people praying for peace and really putting that message of wishing for betterment for all and for our planet and all sentient beings out into the field. You have spoken in the past about a lot of the decimation is the old structures that will not be around in our new earth, that are old structures that have to go in order for us to build the new upon it. Perhaps you could just say a few words on that before the final question.
I would simply like to say decimation and invasion and war are two different things. Invasion and war brings decimation, but decimation as an energy itself can happen with a far slower, less suffering, breaking down. So for example, in a forest, when the forest chooses to burn much of the undergrowth for the new to come through, it doesn't simply do it. It doesn't send fireballs. It communicates to the forest so that most of the living, the nature can move out of the way, so that the decimation that happens is kept to a minimum of any form of suffering. So therefore, when we transpose as well, as it would be completely natural, when energies such as myself and others are taught about a decimation period, to see it in alignment with war and invasion, this is completely wrong. War and invasion is the opposite. War and invasion is coming out of a place where it is not coming from places of compassion, where it is not coming places of betterment. It is, I'm just going to get this done. I just want. This is coming from different places. And therefore, the ideal of a world that you are all living in, where there is no threat of war, invasion, is the epitome, is what we are wanting to do. Even when our paradigms need to break down, they can break down in very different ways. So this is not political. This is not saying in this country or that person or that person. This is nothing to do with that. It is simply when we look at something of everything breaking down, please, 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 all raise your hearts to the higher. And sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes it takes more intellect, both of the mind and the heart, to find the ways that do not fall upon the old humanity's ways of doing things by force. Because as we have seen time and time again, when that has happened, the outcome is never what anybody wants. It is never how it is designed. It just simply creates suffering. As we say, decimation can happen without or with the most minimum of suffering. Does this make sense to you, my dear?
Are you saying that we can influence that, Zack? That we can influence that with our what we're putting out into the field? Absolutely.
So one of the reasons why it is so important for us to think of ourselves constantly as part of the universe, constantly more than the sum of who we are in our physical shell of our body, is because that which we emit with our heart, more so than what we emit with our head, is influencing everything. Therefore, how we conduct our lives. So somebody conducting their life in Australia, in Venezuela, in Canada, in Antarctica, wherever, can still have correspondence with that energy which is felt in the world, because everything is connected. Peace, compassion, everything is important. Nothing is more important than how we conduct ourselves in our lives, because what actually happens is a ripple effect. So the more people they conduct themselves constantly in a way that embodies compassion within their lives, is emitting this into the field, and into the field comes this way of being which is stronger than force. Understand, yes?
Yes, yes. And actually, that leads me on to the next question, which I would love to pose to both of you. And Zack, you've been saying recently that we are moving into a time of real potent manifestation, that we have a lot of opportunities to make some big changes and things. And I'd love to firstly ask you, Pam, about the planetary influences that we have right now that are helping us with this.
Yeah, fantastic. And, just as Zack was talking there, I just am sort of running ticker tape through my mind of the astrology, because compassion is one of the very first words that comes to mind with this huge Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, which we only ever have every 166 years. So it's absolutely the opportunity of a lifetime. And it is a big wave of very high frequency energy that is all about passion, compassion, peace, kindness, living from the heart, love. It's just beautiful. And it also magnifies our manifesting abilities, because it shifts us to a higher frequency. And Zack earlier was talking about this shift in perception, or the shift in dimension. And in the video I did for Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, the best analogy, the most helpful one I could think of, is when you very first go snorkeling or diving in warm waters, if you've been lucky enough to do that, and you just break the surface. Yes. And it's, wow, this whole world of teeming iridescent color and life forms, and it's just absolutely teeming with beauty and abundance and life at its optimum. And it was always there, we just couldn't see it before. We just didn't shift the perception. We didn't shift the dimension, if you like. And what I think we're going into with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, we're in that energy right now, and it peaks on April the 12th, but we're in it right now, is that sense of a very rapid shift in dimension and perception, which the high frequency can give us, to expand our hearts and all of that compassion to turn this into a much better world going forwards. Yeah, we're so lucky. Beautiful.
Fantastic. This is something that is so important when I said about the natal charts for the collective. What you are seeing here as well that you describe is what the collective have the ability to be influenced by. So even though that I am encouraging the heart, I'm encouraging compassion, it is in your stars for you to be doing this, every single person to be doing this more. When we look upon the earth and the travesty of war and invasion, not just that you are seeing at this time, but in many, many, many countries all around the world, and all the way down to the the more micro level, in domestic situations, in institutions, in bullying, in all sorts of things, that you could feel very disempowered. Because of this astrology as well, that is helping. It is rising up within the masses, the majority, a desire to overcome and live in a different way, a desire for there to be peace and collaboration, a desire through compassion for people that you may not know or even ever heard about in all sorts of different parts of the world, who are suffering greatly at this very, very moment. For this to lift the vibration of the earth, for they themselves as well to free themselves, as well as all of the other energy, more so now than has ever been present before. It is, as you say, breaking the surface to a world that not only did you not know, but could not even imagine what it would come together. The hearts and minds of people are so powerful, beyond measure. So if they just use them with this great force of care. I'm not going to say love, it is too controversial a word, but care and compassion. If you think of every single person around the world to be treated like a porcelain, sort of object that you hold so dear, or you're the most loved one person in your life, and you hold the greatest care that every single person is treated with that respect, with that care, then you have the fundamentals, you have the ingredients for the most wonderful cake of evolution to be made, the most flavorsome, the most wonderful way of being. But right now, before people sit on their laurels and say, well, I'm a good person, so all will be well, we must do the work, because at the moment we need the tipping balance to really push that, push the barometer of compassion and care almost to the height, so that the frequency of work can happen. Understand me?
I do, and I love one of your sayings, Zack, that we are magical beings of creation, and creation is fueled by magic. And I think it would be so useful if we could all really take that on board and step into that role of being a magical being of creation, and really help to co-create this next phase of life here on Earth.
Yes, you are not here by chance, any of you. You're not here by chance. And if you are here, you can make a difference. Make it a good difference. No. Be proud of yourselves.
So, did you have anything else you wanted to share at this point, Zack?
Well, rather than leaving it on a very heavy note, let us wind it all back to the potential that you have in your hearts at this time. You carry the chart of your life, and this is a chart like an old-fashioned ship which sailed its ways across vast oceans by the stars. You can choose to navigate. This will give you the guide, but where you go is your choice. And even more importantly, how you go and how you live, and the influence and the impression that you make on others' lives. It is now not so much about how you feel, but how you leave other people's feeling. Good, eh?
Good, eh? Well, that's one thing, Pam, you're a master at. You always leave us feeling fantastic.
Well, you two do too. We all have a role to play right now in this huge drama of life that we're living. I absolutely adored that conversation. It was mind-blowing at many levels, and I just feel so blessed to have had that opportunity. So, and to connect with you all. So, thank you, and thank you a million times, Zack. You do so much to keep our frequency high and aid our evolution here on Earth. So bless you all. Thank you.
And thank you, Zack. You've sort of given us a bit of a nudge to not sit on our laurels and actually, be active and be part of this co-creation. So thank you for that. I think many of us needed it. So shall we bring Janet back now and say goodbye to her and a thank you?
Thank you, Zack. Thank you a million times.
Good. I call her back now.
Thank you. Your favorite bit.
So it's very bright when I first come back. Just leave my body. He does hold it in a very, very distinct way when he's here. Hello.
That was wonderful, Janet. Truly wonderful, and a lot of new information coming out that he hasn't spoken about before, and that was what was enthralling, actually. Really, really exciting.
I'm going to look at my own natal chart in a bit of a different way now that I know it's literally imprinted within my heart.
Phenomenal. Yeah, I've got to listen to this several times, I think, to really digest it properly, to help me put it back out to the world. Yeah,
yes.
Amazing. So grateful.
Yes, thank you, Pam, and thank you so much for inviting us back. And
absolutely. You'll do it again another time. Yeah, wonderful, because people have loved it.
Yeah, well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Zack. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Hazel.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.